Well, hello there, and welcome to this week's Facebook Live. I'm Selena Knight, the Retail Biz Strategist, and today I want to talk to you about how email, I'm just going to type that into the Be Live, how email can be the most personal team member in your biz. Now, I know this is really hard to believe, so I want you to stick with me here because I know the whole idea of automation seems a little bit distant, a little bit foreign, a little bit alien, all those kinds of words, not personal. And you're probably thinking, but Sal, you're always telling me to be personal with my customers. How the hell am I going to be able to do that if I automate stuff? Well, as a business owner, it's easy to feel that automating something is going to be a saving grace when it comes to time, but it can also feel really impersonal. It can feel like it's very robotic and very standardized, very formulaic. And if you had a choice of a full-time staff member to answer all of your customers' questions or the option to automate, which one would you choose? Well, let's take a look at how email can actually be the most personal staff member in your business, even if you think that it's a robot. So when it comes to thinking about having the staff member or having the automation, let's think about the time, the effort, and the money that it takes to onboard a new team member. That takes a lot of effort. You've got to write the processes, you've got to train them, you've got to know what your store's values are, all those things, so that when they answer the questions, it's not just a technical thing, we're talking customer experience here. Now, whilst you have to put in some time, effort, and potentially just a small amount of money if you don't already have an email service provider, your email systems aren't going to leave you if they've had a bad day. They're not going to get all ranty pants with your customers if, their boyfriend left them, all those sorts of things. They don't get sick. They work on public holidays. They don't require penalty rates, all those sorts of things. So if you're thinking, Sal, tell me how email can actually be more personal than a personal, let's look at how you can actually make that happen. First off, you need to embrace automation. If you're still holding on to this concept, these negative feelings towards email, it's never going to be personal. It just won't. If you're going to take this plunge, you have to jump in with both feet, or in this case, probably both hands, because you're going to be a ninja behind the keyboard for a little while. Now, when it comes to strategy, there are a few key areas that you need to cover to ensure that you're more relatable rather than robotic. To be personal, you need to address a person by their first name, right? There's nothing worse than getting those emails that say, hey friend, or dear customer, really generic things that all of a sudden it makes you put a barrier up. So you'll need to make sure that your system captures a first name whenever anybody opts into something on your website, or if you do this in store in your point of sale system, and try and get their colloquial name. So, my name's Selena, but lots of people call me Sal. So if possible, try and get the most personal version of their name possible. And that might take a little bit of effort if you're doing it in real life. You might say, oh, Selena, did you ever get people who shorten that? Like, what do your friends call you? Put it into the conversation, because the more you can make this personal, the better this is going to be. Okay, so once you've got your customer's name, it's time to use it in the subject line. And you probably get this if you get emails from me. It might say, hey, Sal, do you know what your competitors are doing today? Because that, just having my name there, immediately filters it out from everything else. And spam does this really, really well. I hate to say it, but you go into your inbox and it's like, Sal, we're waiting for your reply. Sal, you missed a competition, all those kind of spammy things. But what they do is they draw your eye to the email. So once you've used it in the subject line, you also need to pepper it throughout the email. But don't get all like, creepy stalker when you're doing this. I want you, once you've written the email, to actually read it out loud and see if it gels. Like, see if that is something that you would say in real life. Because if it doesn't sound, conversational, then it's time to go back to the drawing board and tweak until you feel really comfortable that if you were talking to somebody in real life, this is how you would talk to them. Okay, but personalization is more than just using somebody's name. It's about sending them information that is really relevant, is pertinent to what they want to see, even if they don't know what they want to see. And you can do this by asking your customer a question and then using their answer to segment. And this is something we're putting in place inside my customer list. You'll probably, if you're on our customer database, you'll be getting an email over the next couple of weeks that says, what do you want to learn more about? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it profit strategies? All those kinds of things, so that you don't get generic emails. Like, I hate sending generic emails, and every week I cringe. So we are finally putting it in place, but it takes time. So, all of this is going to take time. But remember, your email is not going off sick. Your email is not going to require long service leave or holiday pay or anything like that. So you've got time to do this. This is a strategy that you put in place for the long haul. And once you've set it up, it doesn't have to go away. You can tweak it. So when you ask your customer a question, and it could be, maybe if you've got a kids store, how old are your kids? So that you send them the relevant offers. Or if you have a homeware store, what room of the house are you thinking about decorating? So, maybe they say the living room or the kitchen or the bathroom. So you can send them the relevant, and then you can have a catch-all as well, which is, I'm renovating my whole house. Having that, it just means that they'll get pretty much everything. But can you see there, if we're talking about homewares, can you see that if someone says they're decorating their bathroom, we don't need to email them about sofas being on sale? You probably could, and maybe you might get a sale. But what you might end up doing is just sort of not freaking them out a little bit, but just kind of putting that icky feeling where, you've been sending me all this really nice stuff about bathrooms. Why the hell are you sending me a thing about a sofa? Like, I never said I wanted a sofa. So business does, but you're not hard to do. In that case, it's literally one email with the suggestions, and when they click the button, they go into that funnel, as we like to call it. And if you want to know more about funnels, we talked a lot about funnels about 6 weeks ago, and I can link to that in the episode. So now we're talking about segmenting your list. But if you want to seem like you know more about what your customer wants before they do, you can also utilize your point of sale platform, or the back end of your website, and you can use it to automate the emails and segment based on what a customer has purchased. So you might group things together. Let's go back to that house example. You might see that somebody's purchased a new linen for their bathroom, some shelving for their bathroom that's waterproof, and a bath mat. So all of a sudden you can see that bathrooms, they're shopping for their bathroom. And so you can target that. Now, also remember, you need to almost provide an out. So if there's going to be a point where they finish the bathroom. So at the end of each email, having a little section that's like, hey, finished your bathroom, go on to other sections, or, tell us, maybe send an email of, send us a picture of how you are, but sort of giving them the chance to opt into the next funnel, because once they finish the bathroom, they don't need any more bathroom stuff. Does that make sense? I hope so. So this is intuitive. This is the stuff that big business does well, but you can do it too. This is not expensive. All it takes is a bit of time, a pen and paper, some butcher's paper, and kind of mapping out where, the customer journey. This is something that, we talk about quite a lot, the customer journey. Where do you want them to go? Where do you want them to end up? What is going to be your call to action? How are you going to sell them the thing without doing the shouty, buy my stuff kind of email? So last but definitely not least is the fact that email doesn't forget. And we've all fallen victim to the whole multitasking and being overwhelmed. And when this happens, customer follow-up generally falls by the wayside. It's not intentional, of course, but if a fire needs to be put out, that moves to the top of the list. Email, though, doesn't have bad days. It's in my little air quotes. In sickness and in health, your customer communications are going to be sent out. No more having to apologize, no longer having to scramble to send out an update. If you've already put this stuff in place to go out to the right people, because you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to plan in advance to send out the information, because you're going to have a few different funnels or segments or whatever you'd like to call them, customer groups. So you have to be a little bit more organized. But as a result, you're going to end up giving the customer more of what they want. And they're going to open your emails to see what's inside because what you're telling them is relevant. And, it's when this happens and when it's undertaken as a genuine way to, skyrocket the customer experience, you'll end up with customers that come back again and again. You'll end up with less unsubscribes because you're sending them what they want to read about. And there's a pretty good chance that you are going to end up with more sales. Now, of course, you're going to need a pretty good email service provider to do all of that. And I know that's going to be the first question that you're all going to ask once I get off this Facebook Live. My personal choice is ConvertKit, not only because it has the ability to do fantastic segmenting and automation, but what I love about it is compared to my last mailing list provider, which is MailChimp, which is fantastic and has just brought in automations, but with MailChimp, every person in every segment is counted every time. So, let's go back to that example of, say Jane is doing her bathroom and her kitchen and her bedroom. So she counts as 3 people in MailChimp. But in ConvertKit, Jane can go on as many lists as I want and get as many emails as I want, and she's just one person. So that's why I love ConvertKit. I can segment, I can tag, and I can automate to my heart's content at no extra cost. If you would like to give ConvertKit a try, I'll pop my ambassador link into the comments below, and I'll pop it into the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. But I would also love to know how you use email in your business to be, more personal. How do you get that personal touch across with something that is automated? If you're listening live on Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Sydney time, let's continue the chat in the Bringing Business to Retail group. And if you're listening on the podcast, hit the show notes and you can have a look at ConvertKit there, but you can also join in the conversation as well and tell us a little bit about how you use email in your business and how you make it personal. Until next week, be profitable. Bye. This episode is brought to you by my new resource, the 5-Minute Hack to Make You a Copywriting Ninja. If you have an online store, then this is for you. It will show you exactly how you can update your product descriptions in order to make more sales. Download it for free at selinaknight.com/ninja.